How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to UAP Tuesday on the big thing. We're excited. I'm excited. I get Mark Reilly back, man. Get a chance to talk to my buddy. So you guys, thank you so much for being here each and every week. Excited to have you. And we have a good show today because even when we started talking about this thing, I guess almost a year ago when Reilly and I started talking about it, the thing that was always fascinating to us is what is this link between UAPs and nuclear technology, nuclear weapons? What is that? There was a new article that came out that kind of breaks it down, so we'll discuss that. And speaking about a new article, I was blessed a few weeks ago to have retired Rear Admiral Tim Gallaudet on the show, and he talked about his article that he put up on the Soul Foundation, a new basically plea to the government of how important it is to talk about this, the UAPs, the USOs, everything. So we're going to discuss that. There's we on this show showed that triangle UAP, or what a lot of people think it is that military weapons that we have here. And then there's another particular link that people thought that they saw maybe one of these things during the whole conflict that just happened with Iran shooting missiles, and somebody said, oh, wait a minute, is that one of those things shooting those things out of the sky? So then there's footage of it. So we're going to show that footage. We'll discuss it. If you didn't know already, the daily news channel that we have called Down to Earth with Kristian Harloff is basically where I do, 7 to 10 minute videos about the latest stories on UAPs. You can subscribe to that right now. We're almost at 20,000 on that channel. This show is a little bit more. We break it down. We go for about an hour and a half, and we discuss all the news, and we have the conversation. And next week, I've been talking to, it looks like next week, Jesse Michaels is going to be on the show. If something happens, but it looks like he's going to be on the show next week with Reilly and I. So look forward to that. We'll discuss those topics that he has been talking about with the anti-gravity and other things. I can't wait to talk to him about it. But it also makes me say, please subscribe to this channel. Be a part of it. Hit the button. We're trying to get to 200,000 subscribers. We feel we can do it, but you guys got to hit that button. So do it and let the English see you do it. Guess the movie. All right. Thank you for joining us. Let's get to it. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere podcasts are found. It's me. It's Mark Reilly. Here we go. What's up, everybody? Welcome back. UAP Tuesday. Excited. I get to talk to Mark Reilly. What's up, Mark? How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing well, Kristian. I'm doing well. Finally back.
Finally back. You came back for like a split second.
Yeah. What'd you say? Because I was trying to say that the answer is Braveheart.
Oh yeah, it was Braveheart. You came back for like a split second a few weeks ago, and now you're back again. So we're happy to have you on the show. I know you've been in Babyland, but you've been keeping up with the news, and what stood out to you?
The one that really got me, that I really like, is the Harvard professor talking about the portals.
Yeah, Avi Loeb. Yeah.
That this could be, Avi Loeb, that this could possibly be all, portals, openings, and space-time continuum, whatever it may be. But, the science, I'm not going to get into the science because it's over my head, but that's my point. The science of it all is what I think will be the great equalizer for this all. I think it is science-based. I want to believe that, because if you follow the science and you follow what's grounded in these minds, these great minds that know how to better than I do illustrate these points, I there's something to it.
One of the crazy reports I saw, and I can't remember where I saw it, and it was recently. And so, speaking of Avi Loeb, it looks like we're going to get him on the show very soon. And it's one of the things I'm going to definitely want you on that show, because we're going to be asking those questions. But one of the things that I heard, and I wonder if this is just one of those things you see, or if there's any merit to it or any science to it, but one of the things that I had read a little while ago was that it is possible that if it is indeed these portals or other dimensions and things that are flying through it, that these things might not even know that they're flying through other dimensions because they're moving at such a speed, or they're moving at a thing that when they're going through it, it's just to them just traveling. So they don't know what the hell they're traveling through. So when we see it and it's like, well, where did it go? And it's like, it just went back to another thing. It's like, it can scramble your brain into a million different places if you try to figure it out.
I mean, what's the difference between trying to figure that out, or that they come from a million light years away and they're from the planet Zartha?
Right.
You know, I don't know what's going to make more of an impact. For me, it's always the science. And we've talked about interdimensional, you know, Grush has talked about that. You know, many scientists, many people in this space kind of bring that up every once in a while. You know, we talk less about, you know, little green men from Mars and more about this. And even more so, we talk about disclosure and, you know, what the hell is going on and how we just repeat the same thing over and over again. Here, are we going to hear something? No, we're not. But it's the science that always gets me. And in that article, or in that that show that you shared with me when I was looking at the news about these portals, it's like, you know, these so advanced that they could be, you know, light years, billions of years, and you know, somewhere.
Right.
And it'd be like similar to like, you know, a caveman walking into you know, nowadays London,
right,
and being like, what? I mean, and that's where I kind of couch it. You know, back in the 1500s, we could look at the moon and go, God, it's following me somehow.
Right,
that
right.
must be the gods angry. You know, no, now we look at the moon and we go, yeah, we've been there.
Right.
You know, it's unfathomable.
It's advanced
what
science.
Technology has done.
Yeah.
And where are we going to be? And I watched your Down to Earth. You know, where are we going to be in the future? Where are we going to be 1,000 years from now with the science? And have we made contact? Have we gone into the portal ourselves? What is the thing called, that thing in CERN that just that like splits the atoms?
Right.
You know,
right?
That's something that, you know, can really unlock a lot of mysteries of the universe, I believe, because again, it's all rooted in science.
Agreed. And it's like, well, what is it? That is the stuff that fascinates me also, because as I said on that, I think it was on that episode of Down to Earth, where I was like, because even at the time when they were working on like the nuclear bomb and splitting atoms, and you're like, well, yeah, okay, splitting atoms, that sounds like magic, right? And it's like, and then, but yeah, no, these brilliant people figured out this very dangerous and crazy thing to do. And that's exactly what they did. And it is kind of relevant to what we're going to be talking about here today when it comes to the science of it all, with nuclear technology, with whatever the hell these things are, and why it all relates some way or another. And let's talk about this article that came out. Here it is.
Aliens have not touched down on Earth. At least that's according to the Pentagon, who recently released a 63-page report, read it, finding that most sightings were ordinary objects and phenomenon resulting in misidentification. The Department of Defense noted that sightings spanning since the 1940s were just misidentified experimental space and rocket systems and new stealth technologies, including drones. It's also shot down claims that the U.S. government is hiding a secret program that had been reverse engineering extraterrestrial technology. I don't know about you, but something tells me that this is not going to stop all of the questions about whether there's life out there. I don't know. Something tells me.
All right, Reilly. So that guy was basically just talking about that Arrow report. And, you know, he's not wrong. The questions aren't going to stop. But this article itself is more so about what's going on with the nukes and the idea about it. So people who are just kind of tuning into the subject for the first time and not realizing of how locked in these things really are to nukes and why. And as Reilly mentioned before, it's not a matter of whether you think it's alien life or whatever it might be. There's no argument that these things have been sighted over nuclear facilities. So if it's foreign governments or whatever it might be, and then you've got senators or congressmen talking about how they think it's just drones that are doing it, and they don't know whose drones. That's scary. So here's the Hill's article, right? UFOs are no laughing matter on Capitol Hill. Beyond alleging the existence of serendipitous government programs to retrieve and reverse engineer exotic craft of non-human origin, Congress mandated that the Department of Defense document and report any UFO incidents associated with military nuclear assets, including strategic nuclear weapons and nuclear-powered ships. Lawmakers are right to focus on the nexus between UFOs and nuclear technology. Many of the best known and most credible unexplained sightings occurred in alarming proximity to our most sensitive nuclear assets and facilities. In 2004 and 2015, for example, U.S. Navy fighter jets flying off nuclear-powered aircraft carriers recorded the 3 UFO videos that catalyzed significant public and congressional interest in the phenomena. But interactions between UFOs and ultra-sensitive U.S. nuclear assets date back nearly 80 decades. New Mexico, ground zero for America's nuclear weapons development programs, is the site of a remarkable number of baffling unsolved UFO incidents. In late 1948, for example, dozens of pilots, defense personnel, and scientists associated with the famed Los Alamos and Sandia nuclear weapons programs began seeing mysterious green fireballs in the sky. Such objects were frequently observed flying on a perfectly horizontal trajectory, often moving directly toward nearby aircraft. In 1949, 2 major Los Alamos conferences on the incidents, which drew the likes of famed nuclear weapon physicist Edward Teller, failed to identify the source of the phenomena. Lincoln La Paz, then one of the world's leading authorities on meteorites, observed the fireballs personally and, in partnership with the Air Force, conducted a thorough study of the mysterious phenomena. As Time and Life magazines reported contemporaneously, La Paz blasted the notion that the objects were meteorites, bolides, or any other natural occurring phenomena. The bizarre incidents, along with their apparent connection to nuclear weapons research, remained unexplained. Nearly a decade after the first green fireball sightings, an extraordinary UFO incident was reported at Kirtland Air Force Base, a key nuclear weapons testing and storage facility in New Mexico. On November 4, 1957, 2 control tower operators with more than 20 years of combined experience said they watched from a remarkably close range as an elongated wingless and engineless object descended slowly over the runway and hovered over the base's nuclear weapons storage area. The craft then shot off at a remarkable speed. Radar confirmed the presence of the unknown object, which was ultimately lost from scopes as it shadowed a departing cargo plane at an uncomfortably close distance of half a mile. A few years later, on April 24, 1964, Socorro, New Mexico, police officer Lonnie Zamora reported observing a similarly strange, elongated UFO, this time on the ground. Upon seeing Zamora's approach cruiser, he said 2 small human-looking beings beside the UFO entered the craft, which then rapidly departed. Amid a national media frenzy, authorities mounted a sweeping investigation of the incident. Army and Air Force officers, FBI agents, and meteorite expert La Paz all vouched for Zamora's credibility and reliability. Moreover, a passing motorist corroborated his account, stating that he had briefly observed the craft along with Zamora's vehicle. A fellow Socorro police officer, arriving moments after the UFO would have departed, discovered a visibly shaken Zamora as well as a smoldering vegetation where the craft would have been standing. Importantly, this extraordinary encounter took place in the vicinity of the Trinity site where the first nuclear weapon was detonated in July 1945. While credible observers reported countless other confounding UFO incidents in the vicinity of key New Mexico nuclear facilities, the UFO connection to nukes is not limited to the American Southwest. One of the most perplexing reported UFO incidents involving a multitude of simultaneous radar and visual observations occurred in the skies over 2 of the largest nuclear weapons storage facilities outside of the U.S. During the Cold War, British air bases RAF, Lakenheath, and Bentwaters hosted U.S. forces and nuclear weapons. Over several hours on the night of August 13, 1956, radar stations at Lakenheath and Bentwaters tracked multiple unidentified objects conducting extraordinary maneuvers, often at an astounding speeds in the sky above these 2 nuclear-equipped bases. The bizarre radar tracks were corroborated visually by witnesses on the ground and via radar and visually by pilots and at least 2 aircraft. Perhaps most remarkably and disturbingly, radar operators watched in shock as the mysterious object outmaneuvered and subsequently chased the first of 2 British fighter jets scrambled to intercept it. 24 years later, it happened again. In a series of startling incidents in December of 1980, the deputy base commander of RAF Bentwaters and several Air Force personnel reported observing mysterious objects at close range in a forested area just south of the base. According to the deputy commander, the UFOs were observed via radar. In an affidavit, the commander, who initially intended to debunk UFO rumors swirling around the base, stated that at least one of the mysterious objects projected beams of light around the nuclear weapons storage area at RAF Bentwaters. Audio recorded during the incident seemed to corroborate such observations. According to the commander, other UFOs moved in sharp angular patterns as though they were doing a grid research. In 1979, just 1 year before the events in eastern England, the New York Times and Washington Post had reported on a series of alarming incidents at key nuclear weapons facilities in the United States. The Post, citing then recently released Defense Department documents, reported that a string of the nation's supersensitive nuclear missile launch sites and bomber bases were visited by unidentified, low-flying, and elusive objects in the fall of 1975. The incidents involved unknown entities and brightly light, fast-moving vehicles that hovered around nuclear weapons storage areas and evaded all pursuit efforts. Numerous daily updates, the Times reported, kept the Joint Chiefs of Staff informed of these incursions. The unnerving events have notable parallels to allegations by former Air Force missile officers that UFO had rendered nuclear weapons inoperable at Minot Air Force Base in 1966 and Maelstrom Air Force in 1967. This one we've talked about for a bit, Riley. This is the one about astronomer Alan Hynek, the Air Force's longtime scientific consultant on UFO, described how an unknown object high above Minot's nuclear silos interfered with the Missile Command Station's communications equipment in 1966 August. A local Minot ND newspaper reported that the extraordinary incident happened shortly after Hynek talked about it. Hynek also described how a Border Patrol officer observed a metallic disc-shaped object at remarkably close range just days before and not far from the Minot incident. According to the officer, the silvery disc was on its edge, floating down the side of a hill, wobbling from side to side about 10 feet from the ground. The craft then flattened out and hovered briefly, exposing a dome on top before tilting back on edge and disappearing rapidly into the clouds. This incident was reported in the middle of a large field of Minot nuclear missile silos, the closest being only a mile and a half away. And the Border Patrol officer also reported that his radio stopped working as the metallic disc moved closer to him. Hynek interviewed the officer and was left personally satisfied that he is above reproach. Moreover, according to government records, the officer was not seeking publicity and stated that if his sighting was publicized, he would deny any knowledge of the occurrence. In recent years, a weeks-long series of bizarre drone incidents observed by dozens of individuals in rural Colorado, Nebraska, Wyoming left federal and state officials stumped. Notably, some of the strange sightings were clustered in an area that has quite a few nuclear missile sites. The nearby Air Force Base denied any involvement in the perplexing incursions. Following an exhaustive multi-agency investigation, the Federal Aviation Administration concluded with high confidence that the odd incidents were not covert military activities, which only deepens the mystery. In one instance, a Nebraska deputy sheriff reported observing 30 to 50 objects flying independently of each other with a larger mothership hovering for hours. At the same time, multiple reports described the objects as flying in a grid pattern seemingly reminiscent of the grid search movements observed during the 1980 UFO incidents over the Bentwaters Air Base in England. Some witnesses and media outlets undoubtedly observed planes and hobbyist drones during the 2019-20 incidents, but one of the objects passed just 200 feet above a Kansas highway police officer who said that the brightly lit craft made absolutely no sound at all, even though the wind was calm. Another witness, a retired meteorologist, also reported there was no sound as one of the objects hovered over a missile command station within sight of his farm. In an astounding historical parallel, over the course of 3 nights in 1965, more than 140 Air Force personnel stationed at the same nuclear missile silos in Wyoming and Nebraska had reportedly nearly 150 mysterious craft exhibiting the same characteristics: flashing lights, no sound, and only flying at night as the unknown objects during the 2019-2020 incidents. Great article here by Marek von Rennenkampf, by the way, so by the Hill. So I know that normally I don't do the whole read the whole article. It was just too fascinating to not include all of those incidents, because we've talked about a lot of those incidents, right? The one where it hovered above, and there normally maybe that one base, I think it was in the 60s, like, you know, you'd have like maybe one of the missiles, one of the nukes would have like a little bit of a flicker or something, or maybe it would shut off here and there, but it was very rare. Like 5 or 6 of them shut off at the same time.
Yeah.
And they all said that they saw this thing hovering, and it's that much of a coincidence that everybody from the 40s up until now say the same thing: the lights, the no sound. What is it? Do you think? It goes back to what you were talking about before, right? It's the science behind it. It's the energy behind it. It's the nuclear. That's when they started really kind of popping around.
Yeah, but and also we're having reports where they say these are drones and that they've always been drones. What? How is it in the 50s, that
40s,
they've had the 40s, that they've had these same UFOs, UAPs, just absolutely tearing away from the thing like that? You know, we're talking about drone technology back in the 40s. It's hard to believe and wrap my head around that. There is something consistent with all these sightings from the 40s until now, that they move a certain way, they disappear in a certain way, and that they're flying around nuclear sites. That to me is a little hard to believe that they're drones. Nowadays, sure, I can maybe believe that some of these things are drones. In fact, I'm sure some of these things are drones. But 100% of the time, no, I don't buy that.
No, drones it's the same thing. It was one of the reports, I think the one I did on Friday, was they asked, I forget the guy's name, but they asked him.
Mark Kelly.
Yeah, Kelly. They asked
Senator.
They asked Senator Kelly what his stance was, and it was one of those answers where it most likely drone, some foreign entity, whatever. We just got to figure out what it is. And I said, well, the one thing that we shouldn't always do is say, well, he knows he's covering it up, because that's not always the case. It's also, there are people who can't fathom this and go, here we go. Here's the UFO people talking about this. It's like, clearly it's somebody else who's flying around drones, and we're going to get to the bottom of it. We just don't know yet. We got to figure it out. And that's what I think that isn't the case, because I think he's wrong. I think the idea of, like, you put all these reports together. So I just don't understand, especially at that high level of government. I don't understand how someone can look at these reports, this article, and this isn't like made up stuff. These are all documented cases from, you know,
right,
all respected people who worked in the facets of the government around these very sensitive programs, who are saying these things, and these reports came out. And it's also the idea that you and I have heard about this story since we've been putting our noses into this thing. These stories pop up all the time, but we should have been hearing about these stories growing up.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Wouldn't that make news? That's huge news to come out. I mean, you know, our parents grew up in the Cold War, the start of the Cold War. The Cuban Missile Crisis is something my dad talks about constantly. It's the scariest time of his life. That was when, you know, our world changed, that we have these nuclear weapons that are pointing at each other, and that the drop of a hat, some crazy person can obliterate all of humanity. Now, that's why there's something interesting to consider when you have similar sightings from trained technicians like radar operators, or Air Force personnel like pilots, you know, people that do this and have to do rigorous training or be smart as hell to do these things and work these things. And they see the same thing that's consistently kind of told in a certain way, that they take off real fast, that they fly around nuclear plane.
No sound. No sound. That's crazy.
I know. That's been happening since the 40s. You know, that's where we constantly come back around to disclosure. You know, if it is, you know, tech from another country like a Russia or a China, then fine. I understand that there could be a lot of red tape to get through, that is classified information, that we don't want to alarm the public. But when you're going back to the 40s, that was Russia back then, that was China back then, that was what we need to know.
And they have
a little bit of understanding.
Yeah, and they have that kind of technology since the 40s, and yet they're not the superpower, the main superpower.
Yeah, where would this if that technology existed in the 40s, where would it be now?
Right.
We'd be going to these portals.
Well, that's yeah.
We'd advance that much, I would say.
Well, let's also kind of move the car to a different street right now, right? Let's say
Sure.
and say, like, when it comes to whatever this potentially could be, because we don't know, right, as far as why. Yeah. The theories are that well, they're monitoring, they're making sure that that the human race isn't going to blow themselves up because they want to preserve the world. The other theory also is that this nuclear energy is also, because it's nuclear energy, it does transfer over to other dimensions, wherever these things are, and it's messing up what's going on in other parts of the universe, right? So, like, that's where the constant, like, monitoring of it is happening. And then the other theory is that they want to take it for themselves and they want to figure it out for themselves. Who knows, whatever it is. But I hope, I have my fingers crossed that it's like they're monitoring it to say, we're not going to let you blow yourselves up, because then there's also that footage that was seen from that missile that they sent up, and there's that footage that they showed on Larry King for the one time where the UFO
thing shot it out of the sky.
It zapped it out and basically just made it worthless. And then now that footage has since disappeared. But I hope, and it's so in my head going, maybe that's one of the main reasons that since Japan that's never happened again, because it's not physically possible to happen, because every time one of these countries tries to do it, these things zap it out of the sky and everybody knows it, but it's just more of this kind of like, no. It's like a threat. That is just my hope, my Superman 4 hope.
Yeah. Superman 4. I understand that reference. Yeah. I mean, if the nuclear bomb created Godzilla, why can't it create these aliens and these portals or anything? And, this kind of stuff is just, it's really, there's something I always kind of say, and that's where there's smoke, there's fire. There's a lot of smoke to this notion that, the nuclear bases have these weird random sightings. The technology that is witnessed hasn't really changed, at least as far as these reports through different people. They all stay the same, no sound. They move away from at a high rate of speed. And then you consider what was released, actually declassified, where you and I were sitting there on Collider Live and we see the Tic Tac and we see the Go Fast videos. And those are the kind of those videos and those things that we saw. Now, the two of us with our own two eyes, declassified, it's out there. Don't they look suspiciously similar to some of these reports, or sound like these are the things that are going over these nuclear sites that other people have witnessed? That's where I'm drawing that connection, and there's something there.
Right. I mean, that's one of the most important things when it comes to the disclosure of it all, is that it's like, well, that's what I think people, not American, all people need to know. What are we dealing with here? Like, if they have the information, if it's friendly, if it is indeed hovering over to say, no, don't do that. Or is it a bigger threat? Because it's also one of those things that when we see it in the comment section, not as much as we used to see it, but when you used to see it in the comment section about, like, how come America is the only one that ever sees this? It clearly it's not. They've seen it in many different bases, and they didn't even mention, I think there was like a Japan nuclear one that they've had. Russia
covered that many months ago.
Yeah,
I remember that.
Yeah, there's been many sightings in different countries, but harkening back to the idea that it's a lot of it, sightings are over nuclear facilities, and like what's the correlation, right? Like what is it really? What's it mean? What's is there, like, is nuclear energy one of the things that is a reason for the stuff that their technology can do? Has technology been shared with various governments, with the human race in general? Because we have another story in a little bit that kind of lends itself to that theory, if you want to go down that rabbit hole. But it is all very interesting. But to go back on something you said before too, is like, I don't think it has anything to do with, the nuclear stuff was like, oh, well, that's then when they started to show up. My personal belief is that they've been zipping around this planet before we were even here.
Yeah, we did a really fun thing at the very beginning of this show where we were looking at art and artwork from centuries, you know, from different time frames of this world, and that there seems to be, you know, every once in a while you see these things show up in art, you know, painters, and I believe they've been buzzing around and they've made themselves be seen, and that legend is kind of carried over, and you know, to paint, you know, the artists who then paint something there.
Sure.
There's something there.
Yeah, I mean, I just
And
well, it's also what you talked about before, man. It's like we don't really understand how time and space really works. We don't. We know how our time works. We know how living here in this simplicity of just minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day, week by week. We know how that works, right? But we don't know on how time and space and the technology and what you're able to do. If you have certain bits of technology where 1,000 years is a couple of minutes, depending on how you are able to maneuver time, space with, and in what these things do. What's, you know, hey, oh, it's a dinosaur. Well, let's go away because a comet's going to hit. We'll come back later.
right.
Yeah, who knows? I'm just saying that you just don't know how it particularly works. Because there's, and this is really, I'm so fascinated to whenever we get the opportunity to talk to Avi Loeb, because I think it'll be more of a science-based conversation to where you and I will be just sitting there like two people who don't really understand what the hell he's talking about, but we want to. You know what I mean? It's like that scene in Oppenheimer. I don't know how quantum physics works, but I want to.
Yeah, that would be a fascinating conversation. I have found out how to stop time though, and that's having a newborn baby.
Oh yeah,
just everything. Time just is a flat circle there. It's just like Groundhog's Day.
Yo, it also speeds it up though too. It speeds up.
Oh yeah,
it speeds up your life.
Then I blink and it's like a month has gone by.
Yes.
But seriously, the idea that you know, you even said something that I found interesting. You know, these nuclear reactions. You know, and you bring up Oppenheimer. You know, they're splitting an atom. What does that do to the universe in general? You know, does it open up? And we get back to the portal idea. You know, is there something that just causes some kind of rift that they just pop in and they're like, whoa, where are we? And then pop back out. It's always going, for me at least, to science-based stuff. I find that is the answer, and that the more that time goes on, the more that we are fiddling around with technology and learning different things and having that research, that CERN conductor that's splitting not only atoms, but, you know, can do a lot.
Yeah.
Those are quantum physics that, again, I can't even speak on it because, if we get somebody in here that finally can talk on it, I'll just be like, huh?
I just want to listen and ask a bunch of questions. Okay, so what say you guys on this one, man? What is it? What do you think it is? What's the correlation between these things, whatever they are? And I also asked the people who are maybe not on the side of even believing that these things are anything from NHI, from ET, whatever it is, that you do believe that there's something in the sky, but it's other government stuff. What's the correlation with the nuke stuff? You know, what's the correlation in different countries, different places, wherever it might be? What's the correlation overall? And especially if you do think that it is NHI stuff, what's the correlation? All right, before we move on to our next story, because we got a couple more really good ones here, I want to tell you guys about both Cuts Clothing and BILT. Let me tell you about both of them right now. I'll tell you a little bit more about Cuts. Okay, so, and I've always told you guys that, you know, when you go and you check these things out, they're all things that I love, and I've talked about it many times over, that I only have things on the show that I dig. So for you guys, most guys, I think, wear a t-shirt every day of their lives if they could. I mean, I know I would. The problem is that most shirts are not acceptable to wear. You can't wear them at work. You can't wear them out like on a date. Well, but today's sponsors, Cuts, they've changed it. Cuts t-shirts are high quality, wrinkle-free, and so buttery soft that you can look like you're dressing up even when you're dressing down. Yeah, wrinkle-free, and it's true. I've had these things. I love these things. I'm on the move. So when I'm like, oh no, my shirt's gonna be wrinkled. Nope. In a limited time, you can save money. You can refine the dress code, but you got to head on over to cutsclothing.com and use that code BIGTHING for 20% off. So go to cutsclothing.com and use that code BIGTHING. It's so good. They've changed the t-shirt game. It's tons of simple and they're sophisticated items. The bottom stretch, they fit joggers. They look way better than the khakis, and they're 1,000 times more comfortable. So for a limited time, again, our listeners will get 20% off of your entire order, but got to use that code BIGTHING at checkout. 20% off your order at cutsclothing.com. Big Thing. Support our show and tell them that we sent you. Experience the perfect blend of style and comfort with Cuts Clothing. All right, you know what stinks? When you're stuck in a loop of rent payments, you're just watching your money vanish into thin air. It's the worst. It's time to turn the rent game around and start earning some serious rewards. How do you do that? That is where BILT Rewards comes in. BILT is breaking ground as the first rewards program that hooks you up with points on your rent. Doesn't matter, even if you're rocking the old school rent check vibes, BILT Rewards, it's got your back. They're going to mail the check for you. It's like basically having a personal rent paying assistant. It's the best. Every month, you pay your rent and you watch the points roll in. Use points to jet off on a dream vacation. Put your points towards a flight or a hotel stay with 500 plus airlines and 700,000 plus hotels and properties. Pay rent hassle-free through the BILT Rewards app. Your rent game just got a major upgrade. Earn points by paying rent right now when you go to joinbilt.com/bigthing. That is joinbilt.com/bigthing. All right, thank you to our friends over at Cuts and BILT. So excited to have them both on the show. As I always tell you guys, and I've gotten so many people who are brand new to the channel and supporting the channel and saying, hey, man, I love what you guys are doing over there. How can I support you? Well, I always say, get something for yourself, especially Cuts and especially BILT. Do them both. The link's in the description. It is the pinned comment. So get yourself something. Let's do it. All right, Reilly, let's talk about this thing that Tim Gallaudet wrote because it's pretty interesting. All right, so this one is summarized. This is that sole article that Tim Gallaudet wrote, and Mike Colangelo, he does a great job over at his X feed, and he does he pretty much summarized it. I'm going to read his summary. Underwater UFOs display capability that jeopardize U.S. maritime security, says ex-Navy officer. Tim Gallaudet, a retired Rear Admiral in the U.S. Navy, published a report about the dangers of underwater UAPs. UFOs that have shown the ability to seamlessly transition from air to sea without a splash or crash debris are an urgent national security concern with world-changing scientific ramifications, an ex-Navy officer said. The fact that unidentified objects with unexplainable characteristics are entering U.S. water space and the DoD is not raising a giant red flag is a sign that the government is not sharing all it knows about all domain anomalous phenomena, Gallaudet wrote in his March 2024 report. Gallaudet sent the strong warning message in a 29-page report for the Sol Foundation, a think tank focused on researching UAPs and their implications that was published last month. He told Fox News Digital that it's scientifically valid to explore these unexplained transmedium between the atmosphere and the ocean, events involving objects displaying abilities that have never been seen before. Pilots, credible observers, and calibrated military instrumentation have recorded objects accelerating at rates and crossing the air-sea interface in ways not possible for anything made by humans, Gallaudet wrote in his report. So I had an opportunity to speak with Tim Gallaudet a few weeks back on this show, and he talked about all of that. I think it was the day before is when, or the day of is when that article had come out. But he said as much. You know, he said how he actually even said that he thinks that, you know, there's going to be China's going to basically start to cause a potential major threat to kind of throw all of this investigation to kind of to the back because there'll be more things that are put as the more important thing to explore. But this is a lot of what he said to me, and how when you look at Darcy Weir's documentary on those USOs and the things that are happening, because I remember Tack Peter telling us about it and telling us about USOs and what they are, but the idea that if you think about it, we have not covered a lot of the ocean. The majority of the world is covered in ocean. We don't know. We don't know. We've covered, like, we've explored what, 7% of it maybe over, and we can't even get that deep with the technology that we have. So with all the reports that these things are zipping into the ocean, disappearing into the ocean, there was that footage of it that the one UAP. I'm gonna see if I can find it. There's one footage, and if I can find it, I'll just play it over when I'm talking about it right now. But there's footage of a UAP that from a few years back that was, and I think Jeremy Corbell had released this one that was just kind of hovering and then just kind of disappeared into the water. And you hear and you actually hear the military go, "Oh, there it is. It's gone. What is it? It's gone. It didn't even splash. It didn't even make a splash." And so they keep seeing these things. And this is Tim Gallaudet, he was a retired former Rear Admiral. What's it's like there's so much more to this. And he's writing to the letters going, the DOD, and I think he's right though, Reilly. The DOD knows way more, because if this was this kind of threat in the ocean, and they're like, we're not going to really address it.
Yeah, I even think of the jellyfish that was so controversial when it came. But there was one thing that they said, that thing went in the water and then came out and took off. A lot of these things have they're finding these things over bodies of water, over the ocean. See, there's reports that they go in the water. I buy it that there might be something there, that there might be something. You even said it. How deep are we going to go? We're not going to find a Meg. We might find something else. There's uncharted places in the ocean that we've never gone. It's fascinating to consider. It's so fascinating to consider. I didn't even know how you get down there. Get James Cameron on the horn. Let's figure this out.
Yeah, but you can't get down to. Look, there's.
I know, it'd crush you.
But there's parts of. Oh, let me do that again because I got all my shots fucked up. But you can't get down there. There's parts of how deep down. The one of the good things in the last Indiana Jones movie was there's a scene in the water, and Indiana Jones and the rest of them, they're underwater, and they come up to like this almost like Grand Canyon in the water, and how deep down it goes. And they're already really deep down into the water, and it just shows you you can't even fathom. It's another planet down there. It's another planet. And
look at they broke down like how far the Titanic went down.
Right.
That was like 3 World Trade Center buildings down. That it is just insane to consider how deep the Titanic went. And we're able to go down there. No, there are caverns, there are canyons. It goes on and on and on and on.
And so who knows if you've got the kind of technology that can do that, and that can explore, and that can hide in the depths of the ocean, and really, and maybe, a lot of people think that that's where these things are based, is in the water.
We've talked about that a lot.
Yeah.
That the theory could be that they're actually coming from the water or the ocean or somewhere underneath, rather than, obviously millions of light years, or Mars, whatever you want to call it. I wouldn't be surprised. I believe that there could be something there, because it is unexplored territory down there, because of, the ocean is, look, the sharks aren't getting me in the ocean. Right. That's their place, right? So if I can't get past the sharks, and then you're not even talking about the canyons and whatnot. We do not have enough of the technology. Do we, to get all the way down, even past where these poor people on the Explorer that were going on the Titanic, you see how easy it is to just, the pressure under there, one crack, you're gone. Think of it even deeper than that. That's where you're like, I don't even know how you could get down there.
Yeah, it's crazy. It really is absolutely crazy. And I think the fact that, Tim Gallaudet, who's very respected, and very much like, okay, we have to take this way more serious than you have to take this more serious than you are, to speaking to the DOD, or at least making more of a case of why there needs to be this disclosure, and why there needs to be, why he's fighting so hard for disclosure. Because I've mentioned this a few different times. I asked him on the show if he would be one of those people who testifies, and he didn't even blink. He's like, yes, absolutely, I would. Yeah. And that does get back to that conversation that we have every day, and that's what every single person does, right? And that's what's happening with this. Is it happening? Are we, or should we be getting frustrated? Because you've been you've been keeping up with it, but you've been in baby world, which is completely understandable. But
something's supposed to happen this week, right?
There's supposed to be something going on this week with more briefings and other things too. But what I have noticed, and the more that I do this, I find myself as well. It's like there are some people who are just, nothing's happening. I don't believe in this stuff anymore, right? And that's their prerogative, right? I'm definitely not there. I mean, you can hear me talking about everything that we're discussing today, and it'd be probably the opposite. Believe even more so that this stuff is there's something to all this. My frustration comes to the idea of that. Well, yeah, we're fighting hard for disclosure, guys, and we're going to get this. We're going to get this stuff. There's some coming in January, some coming in February, and then nothing comes because they can't fight the powers that be in the way that they think they are. But I bring that up because James Fox just tweeted something out recently, and I want to read this. Here's the post from James Fox. For those of you in our beloved UAP community feeling discouraged, please don't. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. There's no way they're going to put the genie back in the bottle. We recorded Temp VO yesterday for the program, also returning to Brazil for new developments 2024. Because the reason I bring up James Fox is because he was one of those guys in the beginning of the year or at the end of the year to saying wait until 2024. There's some big things coming. And so he's been relatively, I don't want to say silent, but he's been quiet, right? And he's been working on this new documentary. He had those legal problems. I think people are trying to kind of keep him from posting this thing or whatever it might be. And he said he went back to Brazil, so that means going back to Virginia, to see maybe there's some more developments in that case. So what kind of bombshells is this guy planning to drop? And is it one of those things where, he's getting his movie out, he's going to get people to watch it, people respect his movies and the information, but is it going to push it any more forward than, there's people, look, people inside of the community are going to love it. People inside of the community, you're going to win them over, and they're going to say, okay, maybe we're getting closer. My thing is, is it going to push past the community? You're going to get new people in to say, hey, wait a minute, what the hell is this? What did this guy just break that nobody thought that was going to happen, nor should it have? And the men in black going, no, James Fox. What do you think?
I don't know. God, who knows what he could possibly have up his sleeve. But when he speaks, I listen, and it's the first thing that came to me when you were saying that, like, if he had something that would bring new people into the fold, it's got to be. I'm feeling maybe pessimistic today.
Right.
It might be lack of sleep, but I don't know what is going to pull some of these people in. Again, we always say it's got to be some shared experience, some shared sighting. Is he going to say, yeah, here's proof, then there'll be the debunkers that come out and immediately go, oh, it's not, I don't know what could possibly bring more people in, what he has up his sleeve. But I think you said it. Those of us in the community will eat it up and hope that we're moving forward, not 2 steps back. I'm very interested to know what new developments in Brazil, because that was one of the big ones that he did that is so fascinating to me. So I'm really, really interested in that one more than, because I don't know what he could be talking about.
Yeah, the Virginia one gets me too, because remember when you hear him talk about it, he didn't even want to cover that case at first. He didn't believe in it. He thought it was just kind of cockamamie nonsense. And then he was kind of convinced a little bit more, and then he did the research on it, and then he really invested in it. And I still think that's one of the best ones, and a really compelling case when you watch was it Moment of Contact, I think it is it's called. And it's great. He's got a lot of really good ones, a phenomenon, but this is that one to me would be interesting to see what they're going to do and how they're going to follow this up, or what else they're going to actually show to say, like, okay, because as he says inside of that post, you can't put the genie back in the bottle.
That's the big one for me.
You can't. You can't, but you can push away the mainstream interest for it. You can distract. Yeah. There's always the thing that has happened is that the UAP community has grown, and it's gotten people invested in it, like you and I, who want to know answers from the regular person's point of view of what is it, what's happening. Then you have the hardcore people who've been investigating this stuff and paying attention to this stuff. We get comments on this channel all the time. People have been following this thing for 30, 40, 50 years, right? That are just locked into it. But it's growing. But so those people not really going to shy away from it. They will get frustrated. They will get, kind of like, okay, what is it? I'm not sure. Okay, James Fox just put something out there, and yeah, okay, that's it. But I'm telling you, I don't think people realize how very important it is that whatever you think about the networks, whether it's your CNNs, Fox News's, MSNBCs, whatever it might be, ABC News, if they're not covering it in a story like that, it is the main topic of the day, the rest of the populace, the rest of the they're not going to take it seriously, because just the way the world works. If people are covering, this is the news I'm supposed to be paying attention to. This is the news I'm paying. Wait, who's covering it? 2 guys on YouTube. Oh no, I don't know. I'm not going to pay attention to that. You guys will, but somebody who's just walking their dog, going to the store, coming back, turning on the news, they ain't coming down to earth with Kristian Harloff or this show today here, because you guys are searching this thing out. You want to know more information about it. You're at it. You've pulled the plug from the Matrix just to find out information or whatever it might be. There are certain people that are still doing the and laughing and going, oh yeah, I tell people, what's your 2 channels? Well, I talk about movies. That's cool. What else? UFOs. Oh, really? That's what I get when I talk to people about it. And until the first story of the day is, there's a big story that the government has now released information about nuclear facilities and what these UAPs might be. And that's the #1 story on David Muir or Lester Holt on the day. Then the people walking their dog or whatever it might be goes, whoa, what's going on now? That's just how it's going to work. It's really important.
Yeah, we live in a world right now, Kristian, really, that there's a lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much going on. There's, not only, the horrible wars that are happening, not just in Israel, but, Ukraine. We also have, the trial of a former president that's thrown in there. We have an election on the way. There are a lot of people, as you said, Joe Schmo is walking to go get some basil and tomatoes, and he wants to make a pizza from his home, and he's walking his dog on the way. They're not interested in what's going on here. They're probably listening to other things or the news. And you said it, the news targets. They cover the weather more.
Yeah.
It's rained for the past, it's been a lot of rain in Los Angeles. That's the #1 news that they open with. Some poor sap sitting in the middle of the LA River, rained on. And he's like, it's raining out here. Back to you, Jim. That's what they're covering.
Well, yeah. And that goes
hard to get past a lot of what's right in front of you.
Yeah. But it also goes, it's not, as I said before, it's not necessarily one of these things where it's a cover up per se. But it's also like, come on, until there's real information, don't cover it. We're going to be looked on as a joke if we cover the UFOs. We cover this.
Sure.
So the next thing that will come, and this is also why, and I mentioned this on my show on Friday, and I want to get him back on because I'm a big fan of Patrick over on Vetted. Like Patrick came on the show a little while ago, and he's a good guy. I like Patrick, and I like what he does. He does daily news Monday through Sunday. I don't know how he does it, but he does it every day. What he said, and I would like to have a kind of like I say playful debate on it, was he was talking about, I can't remember which topic he was talking about, but he had discussed how he thinks that government, he doesn't trust government, which I don't blame him, but he doesn't think government should be the thing that we're looking at to be the disclosure advocates, and that we're counting on them to do it. That's a big pushback for me. Because even if you don't necessarily believe in them, and I think a lot of them in there are crooked. I think a lot of government are out for themselves. I don't think they give a crap about people as much as that they say that they do. But it doesn't mean that they're not the ones that move the needle. And I'll tell you what, that they are going to be the ones that if it does get covered on the news, it's going to be because of Tim Burchett gives an interview on Fox News and it gets some coverage, or AOC gives an interview on CNN about this and it gets some coverage. That's how you're going to get your news stories out there. That's how you're going to get it. Again, as much as I like Patrick, as much as I like what we're doing over here, We can talk about this stuff all day long, and it's not going to move the needle in the same way. It's going to move the needle with you guys, and it's going to move the needle where you guys are going to keep up on it, keep paying attention to it, and we understand that. But to get the newer people in there and to get things actually done inside of the government, you got to have these people doing it. And the fact that this is the first time that I ever remember, especially in my lifetime, to where publicly on television, on these news channels, the News Nation and all those things, that politicians are actually fighting for this. Like, they're actually fighting for it. Like, so I think it's very important.
It is very important. And we have a lot, you got to consider too, that, when Schumer got up there talking about this very topic, wasn't covered. We have people that are like, huh? Didn't even hear it. And so when you consider that, there's going to have to be some big things that come out of Congress or come out of the Senate or through these hearings that move the needle even more. I mean, because you do have these mainstream media that are not even covering the Senate Minority Leader getting up and saying we are introducing a bill to get disclosure. That's, a dog surfing was covered over that on ABC World News.
Right.
That's what we have to contend with.
Right.
So, it has to be it. But I agree with you 100%. It's got to start there, because if they did cover it, people will go, wait a minute, why is Schumer up there saying this? Why is AOC?
Right.
Why is Rubio?
Right.
That's important. And with these disclosures, meetings in the SCIF that are supposedly happening this week, if we could get more people talking about it and getting these news bites out there, it is like James Fox said, with the genie out of the bottle. The more that these senators and these representatives start talking about it, and these the Hill or whatever it may be covering these stories, and we talk about it, and then it goes to this person and it's slowly gaining traction, but then you take a couple steps back when something big happens.
Well, we need another event. We need another hearing. We need some kind of major news, in the same way that you and Peter all thought that the jellyfish video was going to do something big, and it caused some buzz for a little bit, but it didn't move the needle in the way that we kind of hoped. But got a couple more things that I think are very fascinating. But before we do that, I want to tell you guys both about our friends over at Rocket Money, our friends over at AG1. I've told you about them many times over. You heard me talk about them. You know how much I love them. I'll tell you about both of them right now. All right, guys, let's talk about AG1. You guys know I love AG1. If you've been listening to my show, you've heard me talk about them, and I've been drinking them for about 2 years now, and I love it. Never been a vitamins guy. I've told you that. I take it all one shot, AG1. Put it in a water bottle, I shake it up, I'm good to go. I recommend AG1 to my friends. I recommend AG1 to my family, everybody. AG1 is a team of doctors and scientists. It is tested for 950 contaminants and NSF certified for sport. It is formulated based on the latest science and maintains high quality standards. You guys know they've been with us for a while because you guys know too. You've all been checking them out, and everybody who's been signing up to AG1 says the same thing. It's changed your energy. It's changed how you approach things in the day. You're smiling more. You're running around the place, and you're sleeping better. I know. AG1 is the supplement that I trust to provide the support my body needs daily, and that's why they've been a partner for so long. If you want to take ownership of your health, it starts with AG1. Try AG1 and you get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3, K2, and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/big thing. Drinkag1.com/big thing. Check it out. Rocket Money. I've been telling you guys about Rocket Money forever, because there's a lot of times that you forget about these subscriptions, and you either pay twice for it, you didn't realize it, you sign up for a thing, and you're like, oh, I'll do that first free month, and then it's gone. Your money's gone every month. Did Rocket Money do what you wanted them to do for you when you signed up? Because it did it for me. I had all these subscriptions, and I was like, oh, and it lists it out, and it says, don't do that. You don't need these. It tells you how much money you have, that you've spent in the month. It tells you, it gives you your credit score. It gives everything. I mean, Rocket Money for me is the way to go. It's a personal finance app. And it finds and it cancels your unwanted subscriptions. It monitors your spending, and it helps lower your bills, which is the best. So you can grow your savings, because Rocket Money has over 5 million users, and it's saved a total of 500 million, saving members up to $740 a year. So don't waste money. Cancel your unwanted subscription and go on over to rocketmoney.com/big thing. rocketmoney.com/big thing. All right. Thank you to our friends over at AG1 and Rocket Money. I can't do anything without Rocket Money. I love Rocket Money. They do everything for me. I love it. It really keeps me on my game, and AG1 keeps me feeling good. Riley, we just talked about it before we even you got AG1 every day.
Oh, I have to. If I miss my AG1 in the morning, I'm just toast for the rest of the day. I get up early to hang with my daughter. It's my shift, like 5 o'clock in the morning. I take AG1 because it's like I feel so great.
Yeah,
I couldn't recommend it more.
Yeah, it's great. So as I say, you can go in the link of the description. I always pin it as a top comment. Super important for the show. I get people DMing me saying, "Hey, helped out the show today. I got myself something cool, so thank you for telling me about it." Do that too, by the way. If you wind up getting one of our sponsors, please tell me about it. And shoot me a DM on Instagram, or shoot me something over on. Let me know on X. I appreciate it. All right, let's get to this story, because this to me is pretty fascinating. I believe this is the thing that Tom DeLonge showed on the Joe Rogan show. Onezia posted this and says the TR-3B Astra is a concept often discussed within UFO enthusiast circles. It's purported to be a triangular-shaped aircraft, possibly of military origin, that has been linked to numerous sightings of black triangles reported worldwide. All right, now watch this thing maneuver. Where the hell is that?
Yeah. The little Star Destroyer.
I mean, I've seen tons of these things before. We showed one on the show before. And then, whatever that is. Okay, so it just kind of disappears. All right, now let me show a follow-up thing that this was an interesting one too. Take this as a grain of salt, but this is from someone, Whiskey Bear BB or 88. I can't tell. I don't have my glasses on.
88.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did Al Jazeera just show a triangle, which is one of the things we just saw, shooting down rockets over northern Israel? So this is from the other day when Iran was shooting rockets over, and here's this. So this looks like, you see this thing. Here's the missiles, and then it looks like this, whatever this thing is zapping. It's like zapping these things as it gets. Yeah, you see as it gets close, this thing zaps it. Is that, yeah? So
maybe, yeah.
So I don't. Who knows? But like, so here's my thought on what I think this triangle thing is, and that's fine. Throw my tinfoil hat on. I'm cool. I completely think that whatever technology we've been studying since the 1940s, we have been developing this thing. This is absolutely, I think, a man-made thing. That it's the thing that we've very much so gotten about the closest footage and actual footage of something pretty damn close as far as what it is. It does have some kind of a sound to it, right? And do I believe that it could potentially be shooting down, missiles and things of that nature? It's like, hey, and that's one of the reasons too. They're like telling Israel, don't do anything. We are helping. But we're not getting involved in anything further. We're shooting down these missiles. You're shooting them down. Now, don't start anything further, because we've got this kind of technology that we can take care of this kind of stuff. Now, or it could just be really good tech that they have overall. Is it together linked with the phenomenon? I don't know, but it seems a little coincidental. What do you think, Riley?
I don't know what that is.
Right.
It's I'm watching this thing over and over again. It's crazy. It's a very scary time to know that Iran was doing a counterstrike or doing a retaliatory strike against Israel. They have the Iron Dome that protects them, and then this thing is there. I mean, I'm watching it with my own two eyes. Is it part of Israel's defenses? Is it part of the aid that the U.S. is doing? Who is this? I mean, we can't say for whatever, because also the U.S. is not really wanting to get involved, because Iran, Israel, I'm hoping that that doesn't escalate. But if that thing's out there, who has it? Who? I don't know what to think. It is absolutely mind-bending to look at this and consider that that's one of those triangle ships that possibly could have been the source of many sightings over the years, and this tech that either we've developed, or is it Russia, China, yada yada yada.
Well,
I don't know what to think. It's blowing my mind.
But let's say that my theory is correct and that this is our thing that we've been working on for a bit. We've been using it now. We just used it again. We finally put it into play now.
Sure.
It would also cement the reason why people would not want this information out. Like,
absolutely.
There's a reverse engineering.
Just gonna say,
yeah, there's a reverse engineering program. Shut up, stupid. Don't tell them. Don't tell them. Why are you telling them that? They're going to know what we're working on. They're going to know what we have. And then the same thing we say a million times over: the lawsuits, the investigations that go into it, the idea of once that tech comes out, and the fact that now other governments, like, they did perfect it. They have this. What did they do? What can we do to perfect it? Like, it all makes sense. It all makes sense as far as why you want to keep it quiet. It all makes sense as far as how all of the reports and all of the conspiracies, how they kind of line up to it. It all makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It's just that is the biggest. That's the rub for me. Let's say this is something that we've developed, and that's why there's no disclosure. I can get behind that. You don't want to tip your hat at certain things. I mean, right when the bomb happened in the 40s, I mean, there was just a massive rush. We were just watching something about it. The Cold War, the beginning of the Cold War, was when those bombs dropped, and then Russia went and started developing their nuclear program. All these different countries started developing their program because U.S. has a bomb now. We're going to go get one ourselves. If this thing were to come out, well, we're going to go get our own triangle craft thingamabob, whatever it may be. It is absolutely necessary to protect our military secrets in helping defend our country and protect the innocent civilians that are out there.
So I agree. I agree with that mostly.
Yeah, but if it's something else,
no, but even so, if it's a matter of, I think there's ways to disclose without giving up, particular ways on how you did it, and with giving away, like, I guess the ingredients to the sauce, because
right.
I feel like, if you're kind of doing this in a shady way, if that indeed is what happens, and there was other companies that could have put in bids to particularly work on this stuff, or other things, a discovery, the idea and the discovery of a question that people have been wanting to know forever, and you're holding on to that because of military secrets, that is irresponsible to the rest of the existence of human life in general, of what ultimately it could be, because if there's larger answers out there of what the hell all of this is, and you're holding on to it for a time being thing, even if it lasts 50, 100, 200 years, it's not the grand scheme of things to where we, as people who live here, individuals who live here, and if you have the answers and you know the answers of what really is happening, and you're not telling us because you don't want someone to know about your boom boom ship, I don't care. I don't care.
Yeah, I feel like those are two different conversations. Like, there's the military tech, there's something that they're not trying to share with the enemies, and then there's what you're talking about, which is, we've made contact, and this is what it is. There's got to be something that, meet in the middle. is it going to blow people's mind? I mean, we've heard arguments that it's like, we don't want to disclose this because this will cause a panic.
Yeah.
This will create something that you talk about a genie being out of the bottle. I mean, if they go, yeah, we've had contact, and those things that you're seeing in the sky are actually interdimensional beings that come from a future billions of years in the future, that's going to cause a thing.
Yeah, well, and it's so interesting because I think, and you guys can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong here, because I could be, but because of that conversation, there was something that the Scientific American posted, and look at this article. If alien life is found, how should scientists break the news? And what I said, isn't this where Sean Kirkpatrick posted his whole thing? Wasn't it in Scientific American?
I think it was.
So isn't it weird that they're now posting that if alien life is found, how should scientists break the news? And they're doing a recent workshop. Researchers and journalists debated how to do a potential announce a discovery of extraterrestrial life. And if they say, well, if one day scientists do discover extraterrestrial life, how are they going to tell the world? And they go through this whole breakdown. I'm just going to read the last paragraph here of this thing. And then you guys can read that whole thing if you want. You can find it. But it says, another communication complication, according to the Zoom meeting attendees, is that a significant proportion of the public thinks that we already have found aliens, and who can blame people? Headlines have suggested and much over and over for years for tiddling false alarms or inconclusive results, so they're staying consistent to what Kirkpatrick says. If a statement includes the words found aliens, that's sensibly the part that sticks, even if it also says might have and possibly, especially if it meshes with a reader's, watcher's, or listener's existing world view. To notably convey uncertainty of the nature of the scientific process and ongoing debate then means to first debunk incorrect information. The fact that incorrect information is out there, though, also suggests that maybe the discovery of extraterrestrials wouldn't actually be that earth-shattering. After all, people who think aliens are among us have to go on with their life. No matter how scripted a press conference is, people are going to think what they're going to think, and people being people, they're going to think a cornucopia of things. We have to be real about how the next potential alien discovery might go down. Someone is going to find something they think is cool. They're going to try to publish it first. They're going to be overinflated in what the discovery is. So there's a lot more to this article, obviously. There's a lot to it. But it's interesting that, and they do stay consistent with there's a lot of misinformation. We haven't really found anything out there. But what if? It's bizarre to me that this is the same publication. I was like, yeah, Kirkpatrick, go and tell people that they haven't found anything. Go ahead and publish this thing out there. And then they're like, hey, let's play a little game.
But if they did find, this is how we're going to tell you.
This is how I think everybody will handle it. It's almost like that kind of like lead up of like, I don't think that anything will come of disclosure before the election. I think nothing will come. I think, and I can't, and it might have been Danny Sheehan that told me when he was on it. I think it was that said that you're going to get a better shot of whoever the next president is. They're the ones that are going to give the disclosure, whether it's Trump or whether it's Biden again. They're going to do it after the election, because the leading up to it, they're going to be focused on other things, and then they'll be in one of the big things during their term. Well, I guess it would be both their second term. Would be, hey, guess what I did on my second term? I'm the disclosure president.
Yeah. I'm the president that confirmed that there is something out there. That would be huge.
You'll go down, and they'll go down in history for forever.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like what?
They will.
Who was president of the United States when we found out we weren't alone? That question will happen all the time. In the same way that it was, who was the president? When the Civil War was happening, who was president when 9/11 happened? Who was president, during World War II, when we won World War II? Like those types of questions will come in this, and this will be the biggest one. Who was the president that disclosed that we weren't alone in the universe? Like, that's
arguably that'd be the biggest thing
ever,
I think, of all of them
ever. And the other side of it is, what if it isn't the president of the United States? What if it's someone else in a different country? Because that's very well another possibility that because I didn't really get the answer I was looking for with Danny Sheehan when I asked him that about, why wouldn't other countries kind of do it? And they're like, well, we're still kind of the superpower, and they have the military capabilities and all that and stuff. And maybe, but it's like, I don't know, maybe you don't want to get the repercussions. I don't know, but I still don't understand that if look at Brazil. If this Virginia thing, if they do have this kind of information, but I will say this though, when you watch that documentary, you see how involved the United States was in that case. That maybe there is a reason why Brazil doesn't say anything about it. I don't know, but like that to me still is one of the most compelling cases. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh God, just the idea of disclosure or a president being the one that reveals it. Maybe it is another country. I mean, I feel like another country would even cause people here to be like, I don't believe it. And there's a thought in me as well, because we deal with in the world we live in now. There are still people that are questioning the results of our past election. There are people that don't believe certain things are real. You got to put a video in front of anybody. Even that, right, I think can cause people to go, I don't know. I mean, is disclosure going to be the final say in the matter? I don't believe so, which is scary to think. I don't believe that I think there would still be people out there, if a president were to say we are not alone in the universe, that there would be people out there that could say, nope, they're lying. That's something different. I don't know.
Depends on how they do it.
It depends on how they do it.
Yeah.
And again, do we have great minds behind this president, whoever they are? If it were to come to that, great minds behind them that say, yeah, I'm scientist number 72
right,
who backs this up, and here's the data. I don't know what it looks like. We've had the Soul Foundation. We've had certain people say, like, there's got to be a plan for this. There's got to be a rollout, so to speak, because you can't just do it all in one go, because that will really cause a stir.
One full dump is going to be a lot of information. I mean, my own selfish reason, I kind of want them to just dump everything. Just dump dump every bit of footage, dump all the craziness that you can do. You spend you and I just spend you're not sleeping anyway. What do you care? So we'll just go do like a whole, just, eyes wide open, going through all these documents, going, holy crap, they had a whole breakfast one time with 7 aliens. Look at that. My gosh.
Exactly.
They can time travel too. Oh, wait, I time traveled. I just forgot all of it. Oh, my God, this is crazy. Going through all these documents.
Wait, then they had a dinner with Mussolini, Hitler, Roosevelt, an alien, and some dude from billions of light years in the future.
Right, and even the aliens said, that guy with the mustache is crazy. He's got to go.
Yeah, he's got to go.
He's got to go. He's got to go. So, all right.
We've seen the future.
We've seen the future. Well. Yeah, he's not. He's a real piece of trash. All right, listen. Thank you for joining us here today on the show. I really appreciate it. There's always a lot to talk about. And I'm going to even talk about something. I'm sure there's another story that's going to break today. And if we didn't cover it today, I'll probably cover it on the Down to Earth with Kristian Harloff channel. So make sure you subscribe to that channel. Mark Reilly, where can they find you?
Find me on the internet at Reilly Around, REILLY, around. See you there.
Guys, we are approaching 140,000 subscribers on this channel, and we hope that you'll get us there. It's really, just hit that button. Hit the button for us. It gets us that much closer. If you enjoy what we're doing here, if you enjoy what we're talking about, push us there. And then on the down days that you want to just kind of kick back and talk about pop culture and movies, that's what we do here as well. We got movie reviews and all these other things on this particular channel. But if you just want straight up UAP news every day, then head on over to Down to Earth with Kristian Harloff. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everywhere podcasts are found. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you later.